Welcome to the Hustle podcast. Today we are joined by Aaron Edell, who is the president and CEO of GrayMeta, a technologically driven organization that provides solutions across the media supply chain. Hi there, Aaron. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Please do tell us more about the work that you guys do at GrayMeta.
Yeah, absolutely. So, GrayMeta as a company has three core products. Our first is called SAMA. It's a videotape migration solution. Videotape is a format used to store information that was very popular in the, I would say, 1950s and on. And actually, the collections, the archives of videotape around the world hold a lot of historical significance. So everything from the United Nations Rwandan Criminal Tribunal information to interviews from the USC Shoah Foundation of Holocaust Survivors to the Library of Congress for the United States and several other countries has a vast collection of our history, audiovisual history. So we have a solution that helps preserve that, makes it digital, makes it accessible. And then we have another solution called Curio that uses machine learning and AI to help you find stuff. So if you think about a scenario where you're at an enterprise and you have endless amount of files, digital files stored across all sorts of storage mediums, it can be very difficult to find and locate things. So we use machine learning to process all of those digital files and make them accessible and searchable. This has particularly strong use case for the media and entertainment industry and for those archives I was talking about earlier, where if you want to be able to pull up an interview with a specific person and you own it somewhere in your archive, using our software, you can actually find all those moments in an instant and make them accessible and available to everybody. Our third product is called Iris, and it is it's very M&E media and entertainment focused, but it's part of the video supply chain. So if you imagine you are a major network or broadcaster, or you're trying to produce a show for Netflix, they require very specific broadcast file formats, and they have to meet a very high standard quality bar. And so our software helps all of those customers process those files, do a QC check on them, review them, play back, make sure the subtitle's right, make sure the language is correct. And it's used by almost every major broadcaster in the world at this point. So it's a kind of industry standard technology. I think it's the only Dolby certified technology that does this in a browser. So really kind of, we do a lot of things, but those are the three core products.
Cool. Thank you for that, Aaron. I'm interested in the product that you mentioned in the beginning, the archiving one, especially in the digital age. Tell us more about that because I'm sure as times are changing and more tools are coming up, we kind of need to see more of these, digital archiving tools sort of being designed. How has that looked like? Is it something that's, coming along and being supported, especially in the age where, we obviously need a lot of history to be stored online or on the cloud?
Yes. So when that particular technology came into existence, there was a very unique challenge that we still have today, which is that a lot of this history is stored on this format, and we call it videotape, but really it's a data storage format that uses magnetic information. And there's so many problems. So one problem is that at the time that people were recording these historical moments, so for example, there's a famous debate between Richard Nixon and Khrushchev that happened called the kitchen table debate. It was filmed in the 1960s, but they didn't think to preserve it. So we've lost it. We have kind of lesser quality versions of it, but we've lost the original. So there's this kind of problem where people weren't thinking about preservation at the time. And now that magnetic information is really susceptible to moisture in the air, to humidity, and degrades. And it's been 40, 50 years that some of these tapes have been sitting there on the shelf. So there's still yet more information, more history forever lost because nobody's doing anything. No, I shouldn't say nobody. We have lots of customers who are tackling this, but there's still a lot more to go. And so if you don't do anything, you're essentially storing and owning this archive and this history that you're just letting it rot. So why are you storing it at all? Throw it away if you're not going to do something about it. And then the final problem is that, the machinery required to play back these tapes. We call them VTRs. A lot of people in the consumer industry call them VCRs, but essentially they're machines that play back these tapes. Sony stopped making parts for them and producing them in the early 2000s. So, and these are old formats you've never heard of unless you were around back then. This isn't VHS. These are older formats. So the number of parts available and the machines and expertise needed to play them back is waning. I mean, it's going down so quickly that we may already be at the point now where most of our history is already lost. It's already too late. So it's a huge problem, and I think that you can look at it as history. Some of our customers, for them, it's money. They want to monetize this content. They own this footage, this content, these interviews, these newscasts, whatever they are, for 40, 50 years. They've got amazing content in there, and they want to make it accessible and searchable, and they want to license it or sell it. So there's a lot of different reasons why you need to do this, but the bottom line is it's got to be done now. This is a problem of time, and we are fast approaching Judgment Day for these tapes.
Yeah, I'm also quite interested in your views in terms of how you think, the emergence of digital technologies have changed supply chain over the years.
Well, I can speak to the media supply chain probably more than any other supply chain, just from my own experience and expertise. And I would say that it's hard to ignore what's happening with AI and machine learning today. At GrayMeta, we started implementing machine learning about 5 or 6 years ago for the sole purpose of making these digital assets that are in the supply chain more accessible and more valuable. So if you think about an archive, let's say you do have an archive of tape and you use a GrayMeta SAMA solution to make it digital. But now what, right? What's if I asked you what's in your archive? Hey, can you pull up a shot of Richard Nixon debating Khrushchev? Can you pull up a shot of some forests of the World Trade Center's towers? I mean, unless it's somebody's gone through and watched it all and logged every second of it, it's still inaccessible. So I think where technology is helping is that tools like machine learning, and this is where our other product comes into play, can go through digital files and log them and mark them and translate them and transcribe them and do all of these things that make them knowable and searchable. So you can start asking questions of your archive. You can know what you have. You can pull up clips. You can pull up and access moments and important things or make them available. And then for the supply chain, for the digital supply chain, it's all about scale. So you could accomplish the digital supply chain manually, but there's so much content being produced now at such a fast, rapid rate that you need technology to help make that scalable. There just aren't enough humans in the world to QC and review every piece of content every hour that comes through without some tools to make that a productive uh, exercise, because the number of hours of content being produced vast outstrips the number of hours in time that we have. So for every day that goes by, there might be 2 weeks worth of content. So we're never going to catch up, which means we need to scale. And I think that's where technology can make the biggest impact right now, is helping us scale to address the needs of the media supply chain.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that segues nicely into my next question, which is around, opportunities and plugging in skills and helping where opportunities are. We have quite a diverse, network of side giggers who are skilled in different, kinds of skills that could be useful in the space. Is there, or are there rather opportunities at GrayMeta for folks who might be interested in joining the organization or being part time and helping out wherever they can in projects or anything of that kind.
Yes, I think that there is. It's I've given it a lot of thought, because there are definitely very concrete technical development needs and tasks that we need to tackle. features we need to add, functionality we need to add. So I would say that the categories of things would be, back end uh, or full stack development. So developers for sure. We our most of our code is written in Go, which is a sort of newer computer programming language. Although we do have some stuff in Python, and we also have some of our other technology that's more on-prem based, which we're building as well. Then there's sort of the machine learning aspect of it, which to me, there's some overlap. A lot of developers and engineers are sometimes also knowledgeable about machine learning, but we have machine learning expertise, but sometimes we need to train up a model or improve this machine learning model or make it more efficient. That can be very discrete tasks. And probably to a lesser extent, although still potentially possible, we're always interested in leads and driving sales and business. So people who are particularly good at cold calling and prospecting is also something that we're interested in.
Nice, nice. Going back into the product itself, I'm interested in some of the clientele that you guys work with in so far as media. I mean, you sort of gave us quite an insightful sort of outlook in terms of how supply rather works in that space. What kind of clients do you guys sort of deal with?
So it depends on the product. If we talk about SAMA, the videotape migration, it's oftentimes, so for example, the Library of Congress, which is, a federal government entity, and it's not just the United States, but I think it's several Library of Congresses or the equivalent national libraries and archives around the world. So there's sort of these government library type customers. There's also media customers. So think about major broadcasters all over the world, smaller broadcasters, post houses. So these are organizations, companies that sometimes are contracted to go and actually shoot and create television shows for a larger entity like Disney. So Disney would hire a company to go and make Animal Planet or one of their shows, and that company would go and shoot it and be responsible for the production and edit it and then deliver it to Disney. So there's all kinds of relationships like that. In the media and entertainment space is a very, very fun and exciting space, but it's also very disorganized and complex. And sometimes that's kind of what's fun about it, is that everything is different. Every customer is different and does things differently, which provides unique challenges for sure, but also gives us an opportunity, I think, to learn about what ways work and what ways don't work. So we work with pretty much all customers in the media and entertainment space. We also work with marketing teams, customers that have lots and lots of files, lots and lots of digital files, objects of things that they need to know more about and have be more accessible. And also like sports teams. Sports is a really interesting industry that personally I wasn't super familiar with up until probably this year, learning more about how they operate and how the teams have a relationship to the leagues and the leagues have a relationship to the broadcasters and who owns the rights to broadcast a game and what do the players own and what say do they have in terms of the brands and logos and sponsors that they are associated with or appear next to. All of that is very interesting stuff, but without access to that data at scale, you can't answer those questions. And so sports has been a really interesting sort of subset of media and entertainment that has really taken off for us.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that, Aaron. For folks at home who are interested in reaching out or learning a little bit much more about GrayMeta, where can they find you online?
The best place is our website, graymeta.com, and that's gray with an A, so GrayMeta. You can also find me on LinkedIn. So if you just search for my name, I think the only Aaron Edell on LinkedIn or possibly in the world. So I should be the first one to show up, and you can just try and send me a message there if you'd like.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time, Aaron. Really enjoyed this conversation.
My pleasure.